50th reunion class and their guests have taken their seats, I would ask everyone to join me in an applause of welcome to the renowned class of 1960. academic procession for the Dartmouth commencement of 2010 will begin now.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to welcome you to the 2010 commencement at Dartmouth College. This commencement takes place in the 240th year of the college. The opening prayer will be offered by Richard Crocker, college chaplain and dean of the Tucker Foundation.
We rejoice today, O God, in the achievements of these beloved people. We are glad and proud and thankful. For a few moments, we keep at bay the worries of war and poverty, disease and depression, oil spills and earthquakes, recessions and unemployment. We know that the world's problems are our problems, from which privilege cannot finally protect us. Grant, we pray, that on this day, in these moments, we all may gain confidence and courage from the richness of hope that surrounds us. And grant that these graduates, loved and supported by so many generations, so favored, so accomplished, may be strengthened in their hearts and minds and souls for the challenges that will confront them. Amen.
With a gladsome mind, praise the Lord for
candidates for advanced degrees will be presented by their respective deans. A professional photographer is present, so we appreciate the audience cooperation in keeping the aisles clear. After the candidates for advanced degrees have been presented, the president will confer all degrees. Because of the threat of rain during the ceremony, and in order to preserve the parchment and the calligraphy on the diplomas, students will not receive their diplomas when they come forward, but will have their names announced and accept congratulations of the deans. The names of the graduate students will be read as they come forward. Graduating students may pick up their diplomas at the following locations immediately after the ceremony. For the Thayer graduates, Cummings Great Hall, the program's office. For the graduate students in arts and sciences, 3rd floor, Wentworth Hall. Dartmouth Medical School, 302 Remsen, Student Affairs Office. TDI graduates, 1st floor, Wentworth Hall. Undergraduate students, Baker Library Lobby until 2 p.m. MBA graduates on Monday, 111 Tuck Hall, the MBA program office. Guests wishing to view the ceremony indoors on closed circuit television may do so in one of the following RAIN locations. I remind you, though, seating is very limited. Dartmouth Hall classrooms, Collis Common Ground, Hopkins Center Spalding Auditorium, and Carson Hall Room 60, which has accessible seating. The candidates for degree of Master of Business Administration will now be presented by Dean Paul Danos.
Mr. President, the women and men standing before you have completed all requirements for the degree of Masters of Business Administration. At the request of the faculty of the Amos Tuck School, and on their behalf, I am proud to present the candidates for your conferring of those degrees.
The candidates for degree Bachelor of Engineering and Master of Engineering Management will now be presented by Dean Joseph Helble.
Mr. President, the women and men now presented to you have completed all of the requirements for the degrees of Bachelor of Engineering and Master of Engineering Management. At the request of the faculty of the Thayer School of Engineering, and on their behalf, I proudly present them to you for the awarding of their degrees.
The candidates for degree of Master of Science, Master of Arts, and Master of Arts in Liberal Studies will now be presented by Dean Brian Pogue.
Mr. President, the Arts and Science graduate students standing before you have completed all the requirements of Dartmouth College for the degrees of Master of Science, Master of Arts, and Master of Arts in Liberal Studies. At the request of the faculty and on their behalf, I proudly present them to you for the awarding of those degrees.
The candidates for the degree Master of Public Health will now be presented by Dean William Green.
Mr. President, the men and women now presented to you have completed all of the requirements of Dartmouth Medical School for the degree of Masters of Public Health. At the request of the faculty and on their behalf, I am proud to present these candidates to you for your conferring of those degrees.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Dartmouth College, I confer upon you the degrees witnessed by the testimonials you are about to receive and declare you entitled to all the rights, honors, and special obligations pertaining thereto.
Will the degree recipients please come forward to receive their diplomas?
For the degree of Master of Business Administration, James Bruman. Ashish Agarwal. Yukiko Akioka. Subodh Anjawala. AJ Banerjee. Elena Bazina. Raghu Behara. Alexander Maurice Berigno. Ariel Blumovich. Reed Fettridge Bundy. Claudia Carbonelli. Fiona Charlton. Victoria Chen. Zlati Christoph. Bristol J. Crawford. Cedric L. Dallamagna. Rodrigo de la Torre. Adam DeRozier.
For the degree of Bachelor of Engineering, Emily Diane Kupsel.
Sudeep Deshpande.
Devon Eric Anderson.
Miao Ding.
John Ambrosina. Zhang Cao.
Razvan Dumitriou.
Philip Croto.
Kathleen Maria Mateo Enriquez.
Benjamin Adam Duke.
Deepa Felix.
Bernadette Ankadur.
Alex Figueroa.
Daniel Gomez.
Casey Gambles.
Brett Joseph Genter.
Paul Granada.
Jonathan Corey Garrett.
Ian Gray.
Jonathan Herman.
Luis Herrera.
Kelsey Therese Holmes.
Eric Ho.
Michael Jablonski.
Eugene Shu.
Christopher Harold Johnson.
Jane Huan.
Marie Capewell Lacina.
Reishi Jen.
Gustav Nicolas Loneas.
Deepak Kadambi.
Ethan Lupka.
Joan Kearns.
Adam Weeks Morano.
Daria Krasilnikov.
Kathleen Mrose Barrett.
Lydia Kuo.
Adam Wojciech Musial.
Wolfgang Bastian Latt.
Steve Pan.
Sylvie Lieberman.
Andrew Thomas Preacher.
Marie Christine Liu Sun Shun.
James Tate Preston.
Jatin Luthia.
Samuel McGregor Rabin.
Frank Madden.
Erat Safin.
Jenny R. Maliver.
Mark L. Shapiro.
Diego Segundo Mas.
Kyle Evans Sherry.
Elihu Christopher Miles.
Christian Talmadge.
Jonathan P. Munko.
Kenny Elthon Toro Palma.
James Matinda Nzuki.
Marie Diane Weber.
Yasuhiro Osako.
Sherwin Yeo.
Andrew Pearson.
Austin Shuang Zhang.
Jonathan Peaks.
For the degree of Master of Engineering, Drew Hubert Wenzel.
Matthew D. Prosh Wilson.
Vibhut Agarwal.
Abhinav Rastogi.
Alban Babu Anthony.
Molly Regeniter.
Alexander Colin Bell.
Joshua Rodriguez.
Rashana Vishal. Beauchalet.
Alexander Michael Rosati.
Joji Dai.
Manoj Sawu.
Dali Dvid Veti.
Arati Seshagiri.
Aparajita Jayakumar.
Udit Sharma.
Christopher Joseph Koppel.
Catherine Laura Sharp.
Chang Calvin Liu.
Stone Zhu.
Brian Thomas Mangwasser.
Tivan Isaac Sidorsky.
Manazi Nagrisha.
Vishal Soni.
Jupan.
Manish Srivastava.
Shriyan Prujal.
Rafael Koza Teixeira.
Benjamin Martin Sampson.
Sudarshan Tirmala.
Harini Sridharan.
Milan Todorov.
Karthik Sudaram Raman.
Juan Tomasini.
Nikita Sushil Kumar.
Jonathan Tranfam.
Paul Yang.
Leonardo Troutvine.
Candidates for the Master of Science degree in Health Policy and Clinical Practice. Irene Alice Hurst.
Lars Christian Olness.
Alison Keiko Ankram.
Rajesh Vashist.
Ellen M. Ercolano.
Yoko Warita.
Rosa Hong.
Karina Yamaniski.
Raphael Y. Hankang.
Luis Fernando Yamaniski.
Lisa Aliri.
Bo Yang.
Catherine Lehman Miller.
Wenxuan Zhang.
Jennifer Osley Strason.
Yaron Zimmerman.
Andreas H. Tanzer. Shadnam Yekta. Anuj Bhatt. Alexis Likapan. Nicolette R. Horobanu. Jingjo Shun. Ruslan Solomakin. Janani Shriram. Salhil Surana. Govind Venkatraman Krishan. Eric Martin Bell. Evan Matthew Carlson. Catherine Nicole Casey. Josiah Daniel Gruber. Ashley Jane Martin. Apurva Nair. Yisun. For the degree of Master of Arts, Patrick Barter. Ying Chun. Paulina Margarita Gonzalez Newsom. Paul Gregory Osetinsky. Judith Rauger. Sharif Shananan. Catherine Marie Spiller. Daniela Maria Vasquez. Jen Wang. Xia Wu. For the degree of Master of Arts in Liberal Studies, Christine Anneberg. Deanne Janelle Battle. Edgar Blatchford. Michael Blumenauer. Courtney Bowen. Stephanie Natasha Chestnut. Sean Matthew Compass. Alicia Ann Connors. Dane Addison Cooper. George Richard Duskin Eichler. Jeanette L. Elro. Alicia Marie Fiorino. Sarah G. Fisher. Remedios Salud Taisora Guerrero. John Kincaid Harrelson. Christopher L. Ivanyi. Patricia Kelly. Justin Scott Kleinheider. Matthew Lazar. Jessica Simone Lindsay. Rebecca Malila. Rico Adams McCann. Andrew Menke. J. Leland Michelson. Anna Minardi. Nicole Mitchell. Kiara Victoria Mudd. Megan Carol Peck. Fletcher Dutton Proctor. Abigail Russell Rember. Deborah Scranton, Natalie Noel Wise, Brian Zalaski, candidates for the degree of Master of Public Health, Michelle Ann Conway, Sharon Alroy Price, Mabel Baldoof, Janine Chai, Ipsita Debi Chakrabarti, Marie Catherine Dokas, Jennifer Dunnick, Desiree Andriad Femi, Andrew Goodman, Tina Mae Goodwin, Brian Thomas Huntington, Vanessa Beth Hurley, Tina Elizabeth Jackson, Namita Jane, Sepi Juni Ani, Alexandria Kanakis, Claire Atta Manet, Brian Keith Mitchell, Grace Aurora Nixa, Andreas Nashala, Andrew Parney Quo, Rebecca Robinson, Denise Serrano Ianelli, Nicole Marie Sararas, Jason Lyle Steingesser, Richard Warren Turi Wiesler, Kristen P. Vishnatanath, Charlotte Emery Ward, Laura Chambers White, Nora Wong.
The candidates for degree Doctor of Medicine will now be presented by Dean William Green.
Mr. President, the men and women now presented before you have completed all of the requirements of Dartmouth Medical School for the degree of Doctor of Medicine. At the request of the medical school faculty and on their behalf, I am proud to present these candidates to you for conferring of those degrees.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Dartmouth College, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Medicine and declare you entitled to all the rights, honors, and special obligations pertaining thereto.
Will the degree recipients please come forward to receive their diplomas?
Albi Akol, Chiaka Abera, Haitham Ahmed, Jennifer Bentwood, New Cindy Chai, Michelle Yui Yin Chu, Leslie Maeve Clara Kay, Christina J. Hennessy Hill, Eugene Shu, Zen Huan, Deborah Igia Ikena, okay. Paul Jensen, Suzanne Elizabeth Kellman, Darcy Arndt Kerr, Austin Injay Kim, Svetla Kurtiva, David Lavoy, Brandon Libby, Nicholas Maldonado, B. Derek Maxfield, Elizabeth A. Mayhall, R. Christopher McCarthy, Maria Patricia Miranda. Prachi Thanya Narayan. Raghavan Narayanan. Crandall E. Peeler. Catherine Ratson Peeler. Christos D. Fotopoulos. Melinda June Pierce. Christopher R. Russo. Elizabeth A. Sack. Maureen Shu. Tivan Isaac Sidorsky. Benjamin M. Snyder. Ryan C. Stair. Mary Ann Melendez Suriel. Amanda Virginia Haywood Thornton. John D. Toll. Mark D. Tyson. Ann K. Welsh. Congratulations to the DMS class of 2010.
Candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy will now be presented by Dean Brian Pogue.
Mr. President, the arts and science graduate students standing before you have completed all the requirements of Dartmouth College for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. At the request of the Dartmouth faculty and on their behalf, I now proudly present each of them to you for the awarding of that degree.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Dartmouth College, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and declare you entitled to all the rights, honors, and special obligations pertaining thereto.
Will the degree recipients please come forward to receive their diplomas?
For the degree Doctor of Philosophy, Yolanda Nesbeth, Microbiology and Immunology. S. Peter G. Bach, Microbiology and Immunology. Christopher Lee Baker, Genetics. Matthew Paul Bell, Computer Science. Jonathan Thomas Bassett, Engineering Sciences. Katrina Lee Bogan, Biochemistry. Samuel R. Bowden, Engineering Sciences. Nicholas L. Bunch, Physics and Astronomy. Sarah Elizabeth Campbell, Chemistry. Chenhui Chen, Genetics. Nikita Mihailovich Chernov, Physiology. Yashaudin Chinchore, Biological Sciences. Seung-hyuk Choi, Genetics. Anik L. Coate, Microbiology and Immunology. Justin Michael Crocker, Biological Sciences. Robert Trafford Crump, Health Policy and Clinical Practice. Juan R. Cubellos Ruiz, Microbiology and Immunology. Carla Cugini, Microbiology and Immunology. Kristen M. Garner, Pharmacology and Toxicology. Anna C. Green, Chemistry. Casey Stephen Green, Genetics. Kelly Christopher Heim, Pharmacology and Toxicology. Grant Edward Henderson, Engineering Sciences. Courtney Kozel Horvath, Pharmacology and Toxicology. Ryan Joseph Horvath, Pharmacology and Toxicology. Yong Hu, Physics and Astronomy. Paul Kinlaw, Mathematics. Hold on. Swapna Kulu, Biochemistry. Yunsong Lee, Cognitive Neuroscience. Yifeng Liao, Engineering Sciences. Rebecca J. Lindstrom, Physics and Astronomy. Andres Lorente Rodriguez, Biochemistry. Magdalena A. Limo, Physiology. Daniel W. Mielkars, Microbiology and Immunology. Teddy Frank Msella, Microbiology and Immunology. Paul David Nation, Physics and Astronomy. Relda Name, Genetics. Maytal Nita, Cognitive Neuroscience. Roberto J. Nicolalde Flores, Health Policy and Clinical Practice. Daniel Otieno Ochil, Physiology. Jeremy Edward Ouellette, Physics and Astronomy. Christine A. Patton, Genetics. Imran Rizvi, Engineering Sciences. Chantel Dawn Sloan, Genetics. Brandon Bradley Smith, Chemistry. Sarah Louise Thompson, Biochemistry. Sarah Imari Walker, Physics and Astronomy. Anna Vashuk, Microbiology and Immunology. Chun Wei, Physics and Astronomy. Sarah Elizabeth Wright, Mathematics. Fei Xiong, Computer Science. Jen Yue, Chemistry. Wei Zheng, Computer Science.
Mr. President, on behalf of Dartmouth's faculties and pursuant to votes by the College Board of Trustees, I present to you 7 remarkable individuals for conferring upon each of them the degree honoris causa. First, for the degree Doctor of Science, Regina Benjamin.
Regina Benjamin, you have scaled great professional heights while staying firmly grounded in community service. As a family physician in a Gulf Coast fishing community, you always put your patients ahead of yourself. You treated any patient, whether they could pay in cash, in kind, or not at all. Now, as U.S. Surgeon General, you are helping to make primary health care more accessible and affordable for people across our nation. A daughter of the Deep South, you studied medicine at Atlanta's Morehouse School of Medicine, where your mentor and eventual Surgeon General himself introduced you to rural medicine. You received your medical degree from the University of Alabama at Birmingham as a member of the National Health Service Corps. You committed to work where doctors were needed most. That led you back to Bayou La Batterie, near your childhood home in southern Alabama. In a community where most residents lived below the poverty line, you built a clinic to help raise people up. You made house calls in your pickup truck and accepted payment in oysters. To make ends meet, you worked night shifts in emergency rooms, and you earned an MBA from Tulane to apply new lessons to your practice of medicine. Neither two hurricanes nor a fire could stop you from rebuilding your clinic again and again. In you, Mother Nature has met a force of nature. You have not only treated serious illness, you have known too much of it in your own family. Because of your service to your patients, you were called to public service. Appointed by politicians of both parties, you have helped guide a university, a medical association, and now a nation. You have been called country doctor with a heart. Now you are a doctor whose heart and service inspire medical professionals across our country. Dartmouth is pleased with all of our heart to award you the honorary degree, Doctor of Science.
Mr. President, for the degree Doctor of Science, Agnes Binagwaho.
Agnes Binagwaho, you are a healer for whom healing alone is not enough. In your life's work as a pediatrician and leader in public health, you have never rested in trying to make today better than yesterday and tomorrow better than today. You believe that any problem can be solved if we work hard enough to find solutions within our culture and within ourselves. Your tenacity demonstrates the power of that belief. You trained as a doctor in Belgium and France, but rather than remaining in Europe for a successful and comfortable career, you returned to your native Rwanda, where you rose to the Herculean task of rebuilding a country devastated by genocide. In the process, you helped to create a healthcare system that has become a model for all of Africa. Malaria mortality in your homeland has been reduced by 2/3. 70% of Rwandans with HIV/AIDS now have access to antiretroviral drugs. And more than 90% of Rwandans now have health insurance. Today, as Rwanda's permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health, yours is a clarion voice in support of women's rights, and you are an eloquent champion of participatory health care. You are empowering adolescents to make choices that would lead to better health outcomes. You are a savior to them and an inspiration to us all. And for all the seriousness of your life's work, you have never let it weigh down your spirit or drive the joy from your soul. For all this and all of your accomplishments, the Dartmouth community is proud to confer on you the honorary degree, Doctor of Science.
Mr. President, for the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, Arthur Irving.
Arthur Irving, you have spent a lifetime drawing energy from the earth and giving your energy back to the earth. At age 10, you worked summers in your father's oil business in St. John, New Brunswick, and today serve that company as chairman. For 60 years and more, you have stayed true to your roots and true to the timeless lessons you learned at your father's side, to do the right thing and give your all to what you do. You live your passion for our planet and your love for the great open spaces of your native Canada. You have canoed its rivers and felt the thrill of its wind riding your beloved Harley. You have labored to preserve its wildlife through your work for Ducks Unlimited. You moved shipping lanes in the Bay of Fundy to protect the Atlantic right whale. Your leadership and innovation in low-sulfur fuels earned Irving Oil a Clean Air Excellence Award. And today, you are helping to shape a new generation of leaders in Canada as the Chancellor of Acadia University, your alma mater, and home to the K.C. Irving Environmental Center. You are, in all things, a family man, from your love and care for your own family to your love and care for the Earth's family. For these and other achievements in your higher octane life, we are proud to welcome you into the Dartmouth family by conferring the honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters.
Mr. President, for the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, Barry McLean.
Barry McLean, engineer, negotiator, problem solver, politician, business leader, and family man. These are only some of the many roles you fill. As President and Chief Financial Officer of McLean Fogg Company, a provider of engineered components which your grandfather founded 85 years ago, you have demonstrated innovative leadership through product development and acquisitions. You credit much of your success to the education received at Dartmouth College. We, in turn, have reaped the benefits of your loyalty and the time you have given on behalf of your alma mater. You received your undergraduate degree with today's great 50th reunion class of 1960. And your master's degree from the Thayer School of Engineering, and you have worked tirelessly to support the generations of Dartmouth students who followed you. Your goal has been to ensure that they receive an extraordinary education and gain the skills they require to meet the ever-changing needs of our contemporary business world and society. To support this vision, you have served as president of the Dartmouth Society of Engineers, as a member of the Board of Trustees, and as a member of the Thayer School's Board of Overseers for the last 36 years, including as chair from 1982 to 1984. One of the major accomplishments during your Thayer Board tenure was the completion of the McLean Engineering Sciences Center, which provided the space for Thayer's design studio approach to engineering education. You have done so much, it is difficult to imagine Dartmouth without you. When the former dean of the Thayer School, Charles Hutchinson, was asked about your board tenure, he responded, "His term is for life." We salute your accomplishments and are grateful for your many contributions. Today, we are so very proud to award you, a member of our Dartmouth family, with an honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters.
Thank you.
Mr. President, for the degree Doctor of Arts, James Noctway.
James Noctway, your drive to Hanover from Massachusetts to attend Dartmouth College would prove to be your shortest trip over the next 40 years. Majoring in art history and government, you were influenced by photos of the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. Following graduation, you borrowed a camera from your brother, taught yourself photography, and launched an extraordinary career as a photojournalist. Since then, you have traveled the world capturing images that reveal the pain and suffering caused by war, disease, starvation, and other unbearable events. I have been a witness, and these pictures are my testimony, you wrote, in explaining your objective. The events I have recorded should not be forgotten and must not be repeated. Your photographs share with the world civil strife in Northern Ireland, orphaned and neglected children in Romania, victims of cholera in South Africa and Zaire, conflict in the Balkans, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and many other unsettling events. The morning after returning to New York City from an assignment overseas, you photographed the collapse of the Twin Towers, less than a mile from your studio. When granted one wish as a recipient of the TED Prize, yours was to bring tuberculosis and drug-resistant tuberculosis into people's consciousness across the world through the power of digital news photography. In addition to your photo features in Life, National Geographic, Time, and many international publications, you have produced 2 books and compiled many photo essays. Your Dartmouth application stated, "I feel that by trying to leave the small segment of the world with which I have come into contact a better place than it was, I have achieved all that a man can truly ask out of life." In graduation for the extraordinary humanity your powerful images have brought to society, Dartmouth proudly presents you with the honorary degree, Doctor of Arts.
Mr. President, for the degree Doctor of Letters, Jody Picot.
Jody Picot, you have led millions of us on explorations of timeless moral issues played out in contemporary society. Your readers today span countries and generations, and your spellbinding books have challenged them to wrestle with unsettling issues, from sexual abuse and euthanasia to the relationship between tolerance and religion. Yours are compelling tales driven forward not by easy answers, but by uncomfortable questions. They force us to think hard and deeply about right and wrong, and each is marked by a depth of research that brings authenticity and forensic precision to every scene, whether in a courtroom or an Amish community, in an operating room, or on a ghost hunt. But it is your own humanity that undoubtedly lets us see in each of your characters part of ourselves. The range of your work, from family life to diseases to the inner life of Wonder Woman, the range of your work is perhaps unmatched in modern American literature. It inspires women and men, parents and teenagers, and does so in 34 languages. It brings fresh and original insight to public discourse on the concerns of our day. Although you studied creative writing at Princeton and earned a master's degree in education from Harvard, you ultimately had the good sense to settle here in Hanover. So, at Dartmouth, we are blessed not only to count you as a great American writer, but also as a neighbor. Another famous American writer once described your work as unassuming brilliance. We know that description is just as aptly applied to you as a person as well. Expressing your love of research, you recently said that there's a part of the writer that wants to be a scholar, because you are a scholar of the world. For your body of work that has helped us to see the world in new ways, Dartmouth is pleased to award you the honorary degree, Doctor of Letters.
Mr. President, for the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, Stephen Lewis.
Stephen Lewis, you are an eloquent activist who has mobilized the world to respond to humanitarian disasters, from the genocide of war to the pandemic of disease. As a politician, commentator, and diplomat, you have distinguished yourself not only by your rapier intellect, but also your great compassion. From your earliest years, your father exposed you to the power of public service, but it wasn't until you traveled to Africa as a young man that you found your own calling. In 2 years of teaching and learning, you developed a deep affection for Africa and its people. You returned to your native Canada, but you did not leave Africa behind. A political career in Ontario earned you such respect across party lines that an ideological foe appointed you Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, where you charted an activist role focused on the developing world. You investigated the 1994 genocide in Rwanda and then confronted the calamity of HIV/AIDS as UN Secretary General Special Envoy in Africa. You deployed a politician's deft touch to engage tribal elders in village meetings or cajole entrenched bureaucrats to act in the marbled halls of government. Above all, you challenged the world to confront the African AIDS epidemic and stop what you unforgettably described as mass murder by complacency. Your moral clarity jolted governments to stop denying the causes of AIDS, and your tireless work sped the flow of life-saving medicines to those in need. You nurtured grassroots organizations, and through the Stephen Lewis Foundation, have funded more than 300 of them. Despite bearing witness to the most profound of human deprivations, you have never lost hope in a better future, and your example gives us all more hope for a better world. You have been awarded the highest civilian honor in nations from Canada to Lesotho. Now, Dartmouth is pleased to join in honoring you and your work by bestowing the honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters.
Mr. President, platform party, trustees, my colleague, honorary degree recipients, the family and friends positively levitating with the celebratory spirit which suffuses everyone on this grand day, and above all, the graduates here attending. I want to say how extraordinarily privileged and honored I feel to be a part of this day. I want to congratulate the graduates overwhelmingly for what they have achieved. I want to say to my honorary degree colleagues that this is a quite remarkable, eclectic group of people who have fashioned contributions that are positively legendary, and we're now bonded forever in the halo of Dartmouth. I must say that I feel tremendous appreciation to be here personally and receive this honorary degree, but particularly on the occasion of the first commencement of President Jim Kim, who is a good and dear friend. I consider this moment to be the pinnacle of my checkered career. I am but a mere and lonely Canadian. Well, not lonely, because Arthur Irving is here with me. But I must say that it's almost more than my frail psyche can endure to be invited to the precincts of Dartmouth. And I think I should begin these remarks with a confessional. I attended 4 post-secondary institutions of celebrated higher learning in my own country of Canada over an infinite, not to say unendurable, number of years, and managed never, but ever, to acquire a degree. I have therefore spent my entire adult life shamelessly lusting after honorary degrees so that I could achieve through the back door what was so lamentably denied me through the front. And this is my first ever degree from within the United States, and I am positively palpitating with excitement. I want to enter into the You can intuit that I'm also a little punchy from the sheer exaltation of the moment. I want to deliver the prepared remarks I have with an almost supernatural rapidity in order to protect you from the elements, lest the torrents emerge. As you heard from the President, I served as the UN envoy on AIDS in Africa from 2001 to 2006. The nadir of that tenure was 2003. It's impossible to convey the depths of despair and anguish that consumed the high-prevalence countries of Africa. The specter of death and the reality of death were omnipresent from the graveyards to the village huts to the hospital wards. There were times when entire countries felt like a charnel house, like a virtual cemetery. I remember one particularly awful episode. I was visiting the pediatric ward of the University Teaching Hospital in Lusaka, Zambia, with the superintendent, moving from cot to cot, each cot filled with 5 or 6 tiny infants, bodies strangled by a combination of malnutrition and what was undoubtedly the AIDS virus. I had been in the ward for 5 minutes when an agonizing cry filled the room and reverberated wall to wall like some ghastly, otherworldly shriek. I remember convulsively swiveling round to see what in God's name was happening. And there in the corner of the room was a young mother on her knees by one of the cots, weeping inconsolably as the nurse came in with a white sheet and took the babe away. What lives with me to this day was that it happened every 10 minutes I was in the ward. A wail, a sheet, a nurse, a little morsel of a death. I remember thinking to myself, has the world gone mad? How is this possible in the first decade of the 21st century? But of course, not only was it possible, but it was happening to huge percentages, 10, 15, 20, 30, 35% of the population between 15 and 49 years of age of whole countries, and in the decisive majority to the women of those countries. What was so appalling was the fact that by 2003 we had antiretroviral drugs available. To be specific, 3 drugs in 1 pill to be taken twice a day. It was called triple combination therapy. It kept people alive. So powerful and effective were the drugs that they were said to cause the Lazarus effect. People at death's door suddenly underwent a startling metamorphosis. They got better. They looked after their family. They returned to work. They survived. But for some reason, the world was paralyzed in its response. It might have been racism. It might have been geography. It might have been indifference. Whatever it was, the treatment did not roll out, even though by then there were generic drug equivalents emerging that made treatment financially possible. Millions of lives were lost unnecessarily. Millions were put at risk unnecessarily. It was unconscionable. It was unforgivable. It was a kind of moment of international criminal delinquency. And then something astonishing happened. It came in mortal form. It was called Jim Kim. All right, this is where it gets embarrassing. But I refuse to be cowed by circumstance. On December the 1st, 2003, the World Health Organization, WHO, launched a campaign against AIDS called 3x5. The objective was to put 3 million people into treatment by the end of 2005. The idea, months in gestation, startling, inspired, brilliant, came full-blown from the brow of Jim Kim, which, when I think of it, may explain his permanently furrowed forehead. There's no beating around the bush here. Jim Kim became the director of HIV/AIDS at WHO. He had a tremendously supportive director general, and the two of them together drove things forward. I was flush in the middle of being the envoy. I watched it close up, and I can say unequivocally that it was the absolute turning point in the struggle to subdue the pandemic. But it wasn't easy. And it wasn't easy for the most ridiculous and distressing of reasons. One of the singular truths about the United Nations, rarely known by the outside world, is the degree of jealousy and competitiveness amongst the agencies. And the sorry truth about 3x5 is that some in the UN World of AIDS were incensed by Jim Kim's initiative, were incensed that he'd taken the lead, were incensed that it gave WHO all kinds of kudos and profile, and were incensed that they were left in the murky backwater of the also-rans. They couldn't sabotage things directly. After all, there is a limit to vile human behavior, but they sure as the devil weren't going to help it succeed. And at every opportunity, behind the scenes, sotto voce, they forecast failure. But nothing daunted Dr. Kim and his colleagues. They persevered regardless the range and rivalry. In mathematical terms, 3x5 didn't make it. It didn't make the full 3 million. But in human terms, it was a magnificent success. What 3x5 did was to unleash a rollout of treatment that became irreversible. Thus it is that today there are nearly 5 million people in treatment, primarily in the developing world, overwhelmingly in Africa. Your university president contributed significantly to keeping those people alive. Can I tell you something privately, never to be revealed to the outside world? I love Jim Kim.
I'm not for a moment self-conscious in saying it. I readily concede that not everyone is going to be a Jim Kim, but I would insist that it's possible for everyone to make a contribution to improving the human condition. You're graduating from one of the most esteemed universities on the planet. Whatever the discipline, whatever the profession you embrace, it's possible over the years to better this often fetid world. You don't have to devote your life to it. No one is asking for some saintly transformation. I'm only asking for a sense of being a global citizen, of caring about the injustice in this world, and doing something, however modest, to bring an end to it. In Washington this past week, just completed, there was a conference called Women Deliver, attracting the participation of over 3,000 concerned advocates and activists from every corner of the globe. The conference addressed head-on all those issues that so compromise the lives millions of women lead, whether international sexual trafficking or female genital mutilation, or the absence of inheritance rights and property rights, or honor killings, or child brides, or the lack of economic autonomy, or dismal political representation, or maternal mortality, or intimate partner violence, or marital rape, or the spreading contagion of savage rape and sexual violence in situations of armed conflict like the Congo, and the crazed lust for political power like Zimbabwe. It's impossible, in the face of all of this, not to realize that the most important struggle in the world is the struggle for gender equality. You cannot continue to marginalize half the world's population and expect to approximate social justice. This isn't to suggest that everyone has to pick up the cudgels of engagement and join some organization devoted exclusively to human rights for women, although that would be a worthy pursuit. But it does mean that in your personal and professional lives, above all the lives of young men, whether played out in the family, the community, or the workplace, respect for women and a recognition of equality become the benchmarks of civilized behavior. It carries a message. It ripples inexorably outwards. It's also a part of global citizenship. Next month in my country, Canada, we're hosting both the G8 and the G20. Undoubtedly, they'll devote a major chunk of debate to the international financial crisis. The agenda also calls for significant attention to maternal and child health, attention to the ghastly reality of between 300 and 400,000 women dying every year in pregnancy and childbirth, and the heartbreaking statistic of nearly 8 million children dying every year under the age of 5 from wholly preventable diseases. Added to this, if we're lucky at the G8 and G20, there'll be an intense exchange over the catastrophic decline in funding for HIV/AIDS, dismembering the legacy of 3x5, and threatening the survival of 9 million additional people living with AIDS who need treatment now, today, this very moment. Again, I'm not asking you to hurry yourself into the fray, that you up and join a non-governmental organization and take yourself off to Africa, although that is a worthy consideration. I ask only that you talk about these issues, care about these issues, perhaps financially contribute to the solution of these issues. Globalization and global citizenship is not some rigid construct or dialectic. It takes many forms. The same argument applies, I believe, to the Summit of World Leaders to be held at the United Nations in New York in September. They will be discussing progress on the Millennium Development Goals, 8 goals to be reached by 2015, the most central of which is to confront the poverty of the developing world, the staggering fact that 1,400,000,000 people in the world live on less than $1.25 a day. And the same argument further applies, I believe, to the meeting in November this year in Mexico City, when the nations of the world will gather to address yet again the apocalyptic implications of climate change. But in a vein similar to what I've said before, I don't ask that you become climatologists. I don't ask that you become resident environmentalists, although that would be quite wonderful. I don't ask that you do further postgraduate studies in wind turbines, solar energy, biomass, or any other renewable energy alternatives. I ask only that you take this incredible education that you've amassed at this remarkable institution and analyze and engage and reflect and dispute and embrace, but above all, be involved in shaping a more secure, just, and decent world. Global issues, global citizenship. There's nothing more noble than the quest for social justice and equality. As of today, you can choose to launch yourself onto that path. With full heart, I congratulate you, I salute you, and I thank you profoundly for this honor.
It is my privilege at this time to recognize those members of the faculty and administration who are retiring this academic year after long and devoted service to Dartmouth. An alphabetical listing of them can be found in the commencement program. Please join me in thanking them for their many contributions. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask all of you to join me in welcoming back this day the 50th reunion class, the class of 1960. Can you stand, please? Welcome back. Wow.
This year, we are in a fortunate position of recognizing 4 graduating seniors with outstanding academic records. These students share the honor of having the highest academic ranking of the graduating class of 2010 and are being honored as valedictorians of the class. Please join me in recognizing our 4 valedictorians, each of whom has earned a GPA of 4.0. They are Benjamin Adam Gifford, Gregory William Hart, Tommy Wei Jun, Adrian Martin Wood Smith. All 4 of our valedictorians have chosen to give valedictory remarks today. Our first speaker will be Benjamin Gifford.
Mr. President, members of the Board of Trustees, honored guests, family, friends, Miles. I stand before you today, a proud member of the graduating class of 2010. Sadly, I also stand before you today without the mustache I've been growing all term. I wanted to keep it, but my mom said she'd post my bar mitzvah photos on Facebook. despite that, I'd like to thank my mom and my dad for giving me pretty much everything that I have today. Mom, Dad, you two are the most important people in the world to me, and you probably will always be. I can't thank you enough. Now, 3 minutes isn't a very long time for a speech, especially when you're busy making bad jokes, so I thought I'd get a bit serious and tell a story from my time at Dartmouth. See, this fall, about a month into the term, I did something really stupid, and I jeopardized my future here as a result. All in all, it was a pretty dark time for me, and while my friends and family were incredibly supportive along the way, the truth is that I never would have made it in the end if it hadn't been for the compassion shown me by the college, and by 2 deans in particular. They gave me a second chance. And second chances have me thinking, maybe even more than last chances do. Because I really screwed up. I feel terrible about what I did. I'm eternally grateful for Dartmouth's forgiveness, and I've been trying ever since to prove that I actually deserve to be here today. Take risks, of course, but don't be reckless, because life is too short to screw up. That said, if you do see someone screwing up, try to give that person a second chance. After all, just because people screw up doesn't mean that those people are screw-ups. I'm sure all of us have screwed up a few more times than we'd like to admit. So, I guess if there's anything I want to say to the 10s before we all move to New York next year, it's that I hope you all give as many second chances as you can. And I also hope that you don't end up needing too many of your own. Thanks, and congratulations.
Our second speaker is Gregory Hart.
Mr. President, members of the Board of Trustees, honored guests, family, and friends. I'd like to start by thanking some of the many people who've helped me over the past 4 years. Thanks to my parents, who provided me unfaltering support from day one. To my big brother Mike, class of 2007 and Thayer 2008, who has been a role model for me and helped convince me to go to Dartmouth in the first place. And to my sister Grace, class of 2013, who has been a great source of support this year. To my professors over the last 4 years, thank you for challenging and inspiring me while giving generously of yourselves. To my brothers in SAE, I'm proud to be counted among you, Phi Alpha. And perhaps most important, to the Dartmouth alumni, who invest so much of themselves in the school, financially, professionally, and emotionally, thank you, and I look forward to joining your ranks. In a recent New York Times column, David Brooks describes what he views as the troubling decline of the liberal arts tradition in American colleges and universities. He suggests that increased competition in labor markets has caused the liberal arts to take a back seat to business and technology as students increasingly tailor their education towards securing jobs. As I read Brooks' defense of the liberal arts, I found myself reflecting on Dartmouth and its educational mission. As the quintessential liberal arts college, Dartmouth aims to expose students to a wide range of academic material. The humanities, social sciences, and fine arts all play a central role in our curriculum, and the focus is never purely on practical skills for the workplace. But does it make sense for all of us to be studying literature, psychology, and languages when most of us are headed for careers in law, medicine, business, and government? How can Chaucer, Mozart, or Freud help the future surgeon or CEO? I would like to respond that a liberal arts education is invaluable for any aspiring leader, regardless of career path. Exposure to the breadth of a Dartmouth education gives us what Brooks calls a familiarity with the language of emotion, an ability to read people, to argue convincingly, and to appreciate the human element. But most important, by forcing us to try our hands at different disciplines, Dartmouth has taught us how to learn, which I consider to be a skill more valuable than any other I've gained here. Given that I'm an economics major, it may seem surprising that one of the highlights of my academic career was an English seminar taught by Professor Louis Renza on the lyrics of Bob Dylan. I learned that in 1970, Dylan received an honorary degree from Princeton at the school's commencement ceremony, and shortly thereafter, he wrote a song about his experience called Day of the Locusts. Dylan is a rebel, and most people view the song as a snub of the Princeton commencement. I like to think he would have responded better to Dartmouth than to Princeton. But the song's expression of unease at the ceremony reflects Dylan's broader endeavor to question assumptions, challenge routines, and elevate people's thinking. Each of those goals is consistent with the ends of liberal arts education. And though my perspective today may be different from Dylan's, I nonetheless benefit from knowing how he once saw the world from a commencement stage. Much like Dylan's lyrics, jazz music also aims to transcend our assumptions and our expectations. During my 4 years playing baritone saxophone in the Barbary Coast Jazz Ensemble, I've often heard our director, Don Glasgow, explain why Dartmouth needs a jazz band. After all, most band members do not major in music or become professional musicians. Don loves to point out that the ability to improvise is not simply a musical skill, but also a life skill. And as legendary jazz trumpeter Lester Bowie once asked, when you're being operated on, do you want a doctor who knows how to improvise or not? For most of us, our Dartmouth experience has not focused directly on our future careers. But I like to think that in various ways, Dartmouth has taught us all how to improvise. Thank you, Dartmouth.
Our third speaker is Tommy Wei-Jun.
Mr. President, members of the Board of Trustees, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. There's one person I have to thank for bringing me here today. Mom, you sacrificed so much for me, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Thank you, and I love you. In the fall of 2006, a new class, the class of 2010, began its journey through Dartmouth. I was a junior at the time, and if you had asked me then where I saw myself in 2010, I would definitely not have said graduating with the 10s. But here I am, an 08 among 10s. It seems I took the long way around Dartmouth, but I wouldn't have it any other way. When I left in 2007, the 10s were freshmen finding their footing. When I came back, you were the pillars of this community. I'm incredibly thankful for all the warmth and kindness so many of you have extended to me since my return. I'm thankful for friendships formed and friendships renewed. I'm humbled by your talents and by the awesomeness of your achievements. It has been my honor to share this year with you. So, having left for the Singapore military when you were freshmen, and having come back with you as seniors, I think I can say a thing or two about change. When I made that transition from Dartmouth to the military, Dartmouth was a touchstone that I kept coming back to. Throughout basic training, I thought to myself, I'm a Dartmouth student. I can do this. I am a Dartmouth student. I can do this. Most of the time, I wasn't doing things that Dartmouth had prepared me for directly. I never took a trench digging or a boot shining or a rifle cleaning PE course here. But I believed in the depth and the quality of my Dartmouth experience, and that pushed me to excel. After basic training, I was fortunate enough to be selected for officer training, and that changed the course of my military experience entirely. It was a whole other type of education, but it meant a lot to me, and it's something that I go back to frequently. And that's what it's about, I think. As we go through life, we accumulate these experiences that mean something to us, and that we can look back upon for strength. Little by little, we bend the arcs of our lives in the direction of the people who we aspire to be. Change is a given. The real challenge is how we respond to it. We are Dartmouth students. We can do this. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Adrian Wood-Smith.
Mr. President, members of the Board of Trustees, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, family, and friends. I stand here today humbled by the contribution people like you have made to my life. One Saturday last summer, I decided for the first time not to do my homework. I had a 5-page paper due in 2 days for my Arab film class at George Washington University, but I told myself I would rather enjoy the weekend in Washington, D.C., than spend it all in my room researching something that didn't interest me. And so I wrote an email to my notoriously unforgiving professor, explaining all the commitments I had and how writing a paper for her class was not one of them. My message ended, I have done and will continue to do all the readings so that I can learn and contribute to class discussions, but I have decided to accept failing your class. Thank you for understanding, Adrian. I waited tensely for an hour before receiving a reply. It read, "What is this? I was not able to open it. Please advise." Like a splash of water in the face, the technical difficulties of syncing Blitzmail with Gmail brought me back to reality and reminded me of my duty to do that in which I excel. My destiny has, and always will, consist of me spending sunny Saturday afternoons inside, writing papers. Fellow members of the class of 2010, I stand before you today as one of our valedictorians, not because I deserve to be, but because somehow I was chosen for it. Success for me has meant receiving A's in classes, and though some graduate schools and employers may consider this a supreme achievement, I look into the crowd today, and I see colleagues whose success is not just as students, but as friends, as mentors, and as activists humble and inspire me. It is an honor to share with you all the academic success of obtaining a degree from Dartmouth College. As we walk across this stage today, we leave this particular success complete. It is one of a series of successes in our lives, but it is unique. We don't usually get plaques or certificates for what we accomplish as family members or as role models. Today, we will take home a tangible diploma as proof of what we have achieved. And so let us use this to our advantage. Let us promise ourselves today that every time we handle our diploma, every time we see it hanging on the wall, we remember that the words were printed on that paper with the hard work of our professors, the encouragement of our family and friends, and the support of the staff who keep this college running. And we remember that it was signed with the diligence, the passion, and the courage it took us to get to this point. Those who supported us throughout our Dartmouth career did not do so just to see us make money, but to lead us to our true potential in this world. The effort we have expended must not simply allow us to live comfortable lives, but to enable us to continue challenging ourselves and working for excellence in everything we do. Over half of our education was financed through the contribution of others who will not ask for the money back. What they can ask is for us to encourage others to reach their potential and inspire them through our own example. For someone else, the equivalent of an A in one of our courses is a month of providing for a child's needs. Obtaining a reasonable wage and benefits after years of campaigning is a fellow human's equivalent to our walking across this stage. To fail to realize this and support such accomplishments would be to forget what everyone else did to make sure we could be here today. Let our printed diploma always remind us of our duty to ensure others achieve the success they are destined to achieve. Thank you.